Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast. It is the PGA edition. We are back. It is the new year. We recorded last week. The tournament was in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii as well. We talked about that. It was an awesome weekend. Tournament's right back in Hawaii, so just a lot of golf in Hawaii the last couple of weeks. The tournament this week we're going to discuss is the Sony Open in Hawaii. There's a BMW Championship, which is the Euro event. We have one of our writers, Kelly, is doing a breakdown of that. So please check that out. We're going to focus solely on the Sony Open in this podcast. But definitely check that out if you're interested in the Euro tournament. But definitely excited to talk about the Sony Open as we sort of just transition into 2017 golf season and get into what will be the first major of the year in a couple months, which is the Masters. And these guys are already gearing up, playing really good golf. We had a pretty star-studded week last week. And so I want to just touch on that real quickly before we get into it. But first, let me introduce my co-host as usual, which is Peter Jennings, a.k.a. Sushi Ram, and Colin Davy, who is lounging if I've ever seen someone lounge. Colin, how are you doing, man?
I make no apologies for my lounge setup. It's been a road week. We got a lot going on. And this is actually my vacation from road week, talking about all things golf. Welcome, everybody, to the 2017 season in earnest. I know we kind of had a warm-up event, but, dudes, I'm ready to get back into the grind. I'm ready to get back into the usual stuff. I'm excited to kick this thing off for real. Pete, how are you feeling to get back into golf for real over the course of the season?
I actually watched a lot of the last week's tournament, which was fun. So definitely excited for it. Been going to Topgolf recently, so trying to get myself into golf form as well. And definitely excited for this week. Finally nice to have a cut and a real tournament with a real field. So pretty excited.
So let's quickly just touch on last week. I don't think any of us had Justin Thomas, did we?
No, I think Pete was the closest one. He mentioned him as far as maybe take a flyer on him. I look at that as a missed opportunity. Pete, I'm sure you'll reevaluate and think of the one that got away. No, we're not counting that. No, we're not giving you partial credit because we play by prison rules here. But I don't know. Maybe you'll step up and take him this week. But no, I had nothing on him. But
yeah,
I'm always on the wrong side of Justin Thomas anyway, so I don't know what I learned from that other than, I think we cautioned all our wrist spots, pretty well.
Right.
All in a Matsuyama, that was fine. Jason Day is who we thought he was. I don't know. I was pretty happy with the way we call it across the board.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. Yeah, I was going to say I was pretty happy with it as well. Had Justin Thomas on one of four lineups, so I did get some exposure. But like Colin said, I was lukewarm on him. I like the guy in general for DraftKings scoring. The one guy who was really popular was Brandon Grace, who completely dudded.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about him. He was 90% in the Thunderdome. So
90.
90%. Oh, it was only 10 guys, but all the sharps on him. So it was a pretty normal week, I'd say, and ready, or not normal, but kind of the results. There's nothing that really screamed at me in terms of something standing out. Justin Thomas definitely is a really talented golfer, and we'll see what he does the rest of the year. Definitely will be spots to take him, and we'll certainly have to look at him this week, although I'm sure we'll talk about some other guys in that tier as well.
For sure. Yeah, Justin Thomas, one of the young guys on tour. He's only 23, so definitely one of the guys that we want to monitor for sure. And just sort of in hindsight, he'd been playing really well. Outside of last week, he had a top 4 finish, 23, first place in the CIMB Classic, Safeway 8th, in Tour Championship he got 6th. So these are not great tournaments, but he had been playing well. So I'm not necessarily think that we missed on him, but there was reason to think that he was playing well and played well last week. So definitely worth monitoring going on because he is a talented guy, still very young. He is priced pretty high this week. He's the third highest priced golfer behind Jordan Spieth and Matsuyama in this week's Sony Open. So we'll definitely talk about him once we get to the top tier. So let's transition right into this tournament, which is the Sony Open. It's in Honolulu. And just sort of a couple notes on just past winners. Fabian Gomez won this last year, Argentinian golfer. Brant Snedeker took second place. Jimmy Walker won back-to-back years before that, Russell Henley. So, pretty interesting as far as course history goes here. But we do have some top golfers here, especially Spieth and Matsuyama at the top. Colin, I'll kick to you, and you can hopefully let us know what sort of course this is.
So this is like when, especially at the top heavy in the projections, everybody's rating pretty like average to negative. So, I mean, sometimes I just say course fit is kind of a negative to a not weighted, but that's even kind of doubly more so because everybody that's in a realistic range of me picking doesn't have a great one. And even everybody that's below the threshold, I put at a weaker course. That being said, it is a par 70. There are the people who do fit pretty well are kind of my par 70 course friendly really well, which surprises me kind of given that Jimmy Walker does so well here. I have your Kevin Nas and your Jerry Kellys and even your Anaban Lahiris fitting the course pretty well. So I would kind of put it at like everything's pointing to it's a par 70, hit your accuracy guys pretty well. But that kind of goes against this anecdotal case of Jimmy Walker winning back-to-back and their wide fairways, so pick the bombers, but the data doesn't really bear that out. So I'm kind of at a loss between what the data shows and kind of what conventional wisdom shows. So, Pete, is there anything that you can kind of tell us to kind of break the logjam on that one and why you might be seeing it that way?
Yeah, it's definitely not wide fairways, so I don't know what you're seeing there. From what I've seen, it's pretty narrow fairways. I think this actually is one of the tournaments where there are the least amount of fairways hit. So a lot of the stuff is going to be shots from the rough. It is a par 70. So to me, it looks like an accuracy course. I know some guys that are long hitters have done really well here relatively. But for me, I definitely think it's more of an accuracy course than anything.
It's interesting. I saw a tweet, and I'm trying to pull it up now. It was just talking about how par 5 scoring is particularly important in this course, and that the par 5 ninth accounted for over 20% of the DraftKings scoring, just how important that singular hole is, and that really stood out to me. I'll need to look up exactly what that data is, but I guess it just gets into, is par 5 and just any of the holes in particular, do you ever like focus on a hole by hole basis, Pete? Like when it comes to just like its length, do you focus more on par 5 scoring versus birdie scoring and par 3s?
Yeah, well, I think that it ends up working out where, with the way DraftKings sets up, you need birdies and eagles, and that's just naturally going to come from the par 5s. Especially when you have par 70s where there are oftentimes less par 5s, it makes sense. And the par 5s here in particular are really short. So there's a lot of birdie and eagle opportunities, in particular on 9, like you mentioned. So I think that's something you do have to pay attention to a degree. You definitely want the guys who do well in par 5s because birdies and eagles are everything on DraftKings. But yeah, it's still, to me, it's still an accuracy course. And I mean, you can analyze it a lot of different ways. But yeah, the par 5s are almost always on pretty much every course going to be where these guys really take advantage.
Yeah, so I actually found the stat here. Fun fact about the Sony last year, just on Twitter, 16% of all DraftKings points were earned on the par 5 ninth. So, Colin, I'm curious your thoughts on that. You think that's just sort of, variance, or is it something where you might put a little more weight on particular holes?
So in order to answer that properly, if I want to play devil's advocate, I'd be interested in what are the breakdown, like what percent of scoring comes from par 5 courses in general compared to the Sony Open.
Like a baseline, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like your value over replacement course type of thing. I basically agree with Pete's line saying that in general, par 5s are so important. You're going to get more scoring there in general. So I would believe in a 60 or 20% number from a single hole. But I would also believe that, if you look at your kind of baseline scoring is like, all right, like 18, like all points divided by 18 is, 100 divided by 18 is like, 5%. Give a little bit more weights to par 5s and you say like your baseline is 12%, then it becomes a little bit less impressive if like, one hole has 18%. I still believe that like maybe a particular hole is like more important on a par 70. But I would just want to put those numbers in a little bit more context.
Definitely fair. Yeah, no, it was just something that stood out because I never seen that high of a percentage just on one hole. And we had discussed before, whether, like you can read all of these articles about every single hole and how players do, and it gets really nuanced. But, I think we've discussed that doesn't necessarily apply itself to DFS, really well. But it's something to think about for sure, especially if it's going to be that high of a number. But yeah, let's get into our players and definitely talk about as many of these guys. This is obviously a much bigger field than it was last week. With 25 golfers, we have quite a bit of golfers here in this field, and we sort of back to the guys who are the 6K range up through. The top price guy, Spieth, is at 11.5, so a really big range here. So we'll start with the bottom tier as we normally do. So let's go from 6,000, and then we'll cap it off at 7.5, which is Colin's boy Harris English will be the last guy. Harris English and Brandon Grace, the dud, and Ches Reavie. These are all intriguing golfers right at 7.5. So maybe those guys all deserve their own spotlight here in the first place. But Colin, you want to start us off here since those are this seems to be your tier here.
Well, I mean, you did set the cutoff at Harris English, and I swear you did that on purpose because, shockingly, if the cutoff is going to include Harris English, yes, just as we left off in 2016, I'm going to include him as a top of this tier. I continue to not, frankly, understand why he's ever priced as low as he is, because every single time I've recommended him, he basically hasn't disappointed. I'm looking at everything he's done. All right, so that being said, he's kind of got brought down to earth, like the one times that he was, priced like decently high, the 9,500, 8,800 in the 2017 swing. He missed the cuts both times. So this is a reflection of long-term adjusted ground. If I'm going to believe in that, and I believed in him before, I still think 7,500 is about a sweet spot. The most interesting case here, and I'm hoping YP can tell me I'm wrong on this one down the road, is definitely Webb Simpson at 6,800.
For sure, yeah.
And I look at this and I don't understand why, because I remember us all talking at him when he was at five figures at 10,000.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that he has done to suggest that he has forgotten how to play golf, and he's that much worse at this much worse level. I think he is a clear value pick, at least according to raw numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Other people I like in this range, Brandon Grace is back down to 7,500. Yes, I know I put up a dud, but it would be awfully weird to see all the sharps kind of be on him one week and then have a drastically different opinion the next week. Other guys I like in this range, like Tony Finau is definitely up there for sure. I kind of like he's it's a little bit less of a distance course, but he was decently high last week, and I just don't understand what's the price drop this week. Hudson Swafford is kind of in my sweet spot as well. But I don't know. I'm frankly fixated on Simpson, and all else being equal, like if I ran auto lineup to set a bunch of stuff, he would be a fixture in a lot. So I'm really looking to see why that should not be the case and why he has a justified essentially $3,000 price drop in the last week. So Pete, can you tell me about what's going on with Webb Simpson?
I just think it's the putting. I mean, I guess that's the issue. He stands out to me as a clear-cut value as well. I think he will be pretty popular, but I think the concern with him is just the putting. I was doing a little research on the greens. They might be a little slower. I don't know if you have any data in front of you to suggest that bad putters might actually not fare as poorly here relative to some other courses. But do you have anything on that, Colin?
No, not really. I mean, it's a pretty weak course fit to begin with. I've definitely had like weak putters like jumping before, but like nothing to suggest that this time around.
And he's been better putting the last three, I will say that.
Yeah, no, and again, he's one of the guys who went away from the belly putter, the anchored putters, so it makes sense. I think he's going to be a really popular value play. Jerry Kelly will be interesting too. I think he's another guy that deserves at least some consideration. I'm surprised you didn't talk about Ches Reavie, but I guess he's at the top of that range relative to some other guys, so maybe he's not a guy that stands out as much. But yeah, you kind of hit on everyone that I'm interested in. I think Simpson and Harris English are the two guys I like most, and then there's a ton of guys in this next tier that I think make a ton of sense and certainly is going to be interesting. I guess one question for Colin, guys who are popping pretty high in the models are some of these Asian guys like Daisuke Katagawa. I don't even know how to, I butchered that so bad. Him, Tanahara. Let's see here.
We should just have a podcast where Pete just pronounces Asian.
Yeah,
I actually like that idea a lot. Yeah.
I can't pronounce any of these guys' names, but they're all popping, and I know that's a lot to do with just the models and having, a lot of the data come in from those Asian tours and whatnot. But those are the only other guys that they'd be tournament only for me. But in particular, the guy who I have no I'm not even going to try.
So where's like in your model, Pete, where's like field score, something that would, bring them down from the Asian tour? Where is that?
I don't have field score weighted right now, so that's probably why.
Yeah, and I think like in general, the field is generally PGA friendly enough that like you wouldn't have field strength weighted a lot that much, and that's why they're popping the models, because like if you're going to get like 90% of the players who are PGA regs, then like your Japan tour guys are just going to pop a lot higher, so that's why they're popping a lot higher. Really briefly, like that Jerry Kelly's the only other one that I want to mention. He is, I think, the sub like 7K course history play. I think he has one of the strongest course histories relative to his ability. So, like, I don't hate that one at all if that's your kind of flavor. And if you want to go secret Asian route that you've never heard of, I would actually skip the Japan tour guys. And the guy that's just below Reeve around here is Shang Tsung Pan, who, if nothing else, the fact that he sounds like a Mortal Kombat boss so much is more than a compelling reason enough for me to pick him. I think he is. I briefly remember mentioning him on either Euro Tour or regular tour last year. But just like I could see him being an early person to watch, especially with no name recognition. So he's going to be my tentative. We've never heard this person, and I'm going to lay stakes on him earlier because it's him or Wesley Bryan, and I think everybody has seen Wesley Bryan play by now. So I like my stealth equity on Shang Tsung Pan a lot more. Okay.
Well, I'm going to dive into the mid-tier because I think this is where a lot of people will be looking. I think this is definitely the most popular range. Kevin Na at 7,700, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So where do you want to cut this off, Pete?
9K is my plan.
Cool.
Is that cool? Do you want me to go higher?
No, 9K is great.
Okay. So, yeah, Kevin Na, I think, makes a lot of sense this week, although there's some other guys I actually like even more in this range. I think Jason Duffner is another guy. If you're looking for cut makers, I don't think he's missed a cut in the last year. He certainly makes sense. Then the next guy on the list is definitely the course history play, and that's Charles Howell III at 7,800. The guy just comes here and crushes every single time. So he's certainly interesting to me. And then you have all these guys in the low eights that I really like. Keegan Bradley played so well down the end of last year. He just got married, so maybe there's an issue there. We'll have to see how he plays. I like a couple other guys a little bit more, but he's certainly intriguing. Same with Billy Horschel. But the guy I love this week is Russell Knox. No surprise with you guys. I think he sets up so well at this course. Didn't play extremely well, but didn't play bad last week. I really like Russell Knox. I think Ryan Palmer is going to be a staple for a lot of people in cash games. I think he makes a ton of sense. Bill Haas and Zach Johnson, two really good golfers as well. So I think this range is just absolutely loaded. I saved a couple guys. One guy in particular that I really like is Chris Kirk as well, who I think is a really good play. But Colin, what's popping for you in this range?
And another guy that sort of stands out, I'll interject, is Leishman. Mark Leishman stands out as far as like if you want to go course history. He's played 5 times and been very good in his 5 times here. So, Colin, what are your thoughts on the guys Pete mentioned and sort of the course history guys as well?
So this is actually the least kind of intersection that I've heard in the mid-range for a while. The only guys that I 100% agree with here were Leishman, who Bryan just mentioned, and Howell, who has the kind of, because they're both kind of like a course history type of horse. I get it that Kevin Na has a decent course fit, but I'm just not weighting that a whole lot in general. I think one of the weaknesses we've kind of keyed in on Na is that he's not a huge birdie maker. Maybe that's why he's so much lower here. But I could talk myself into a lot of other guys above him at similar prices. The one that no one mentioned, I don't think, at the top of this range was Daniel Berger, who, like, all right, he's always been top 20, like everybody's liked him in general, so he's probably the highest I have projected overall in this range. After that, I'm basically can't tell Howell and Leishman apart. I think Howell maybe is a little bit more of a cash game because he's more of a cut maker. I agree with Haas, but I have a little bit above him. If you want to go the third stealth route for course history, is Scott Piercy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he has sneaky good course history. Let's pull up exactly what he's done so far.
Yeah, I like Piercy a lot this week.
Yeah, there is a miscut there in the past 5 years, but like other than that, it's all top 25 finishes. So if
he's been playing well recently too.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know how popular he'll be relative to everyone else, but like that's kind of like my sneaky favorite course history. Outside of that, Haas's only concern is that he has no course history. So if you want to take a little bit more discount and have someone who has solid results, William McGirt is finally popping again. I really love it when he does, mostly just because I get to use the Dirt McGirt nickname all over on the podcast. But like those five essentially by far. After that, I could talk myself into basically Horschel, Palmer, and Knox and Kirk interchangeably. But like I think in terms of I think the best value here is Howell by far. And I think McGirt is definitely an underrated one for if you want to go a little bit more balanced.
Pete, what are your thoughts on Piercy? I mean, he's been playing really well. He has 3 top 10s in his last 5 and has, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 course histories at this course. So it just seems like a pretty nice play at his this mid-tier level.
Yeah, I was going to load up on him in GPPs, and maybe I should be considering him in cash. He's one of the guys I was watching towards the end of the year and the beginning of this year that I really was interested in taking more of a position on in certain tournaments, and this is definitely one of them. Yeah, I like him quite a bit. I definitely think he makes a lot of sense. Him, Knox, and Charles Howell are probably my 3 favorite guys in this range. Maybe Ryan Palmer. I just wish it was a little bit different type of course for Palmer, but those are 3 of my favorite guys for sure in this range.
All right, sounds good. I mean, any last thoughts on this range? Keegan at all?
Yeah, I brought him up. I mean, I probably won't have Keegan just because I like other guys so much in this range, but certainly can understand it.
Yeah, Keegan got shuffled to the bottom of the list for me for sure. I could talk myself into at least 8 other guys above him.
Yep. No, that is really fair. All right. Well, let's. One other guy I guess I'll mention, Zach Johnson. Obviously, really good long-term metrics. Not like a whole lot of stuff as far as course history goes here, but if you're just looking at price per adjusted round, he seems to stand out. Any interest? He's the guy that sort of profiles as a cash game play more than a tournament play, but it seems like there might be a couple guys a little bit lower than him that would be preferred.
I mean, I've been bearish on him before.
Yeah.
I don't really see a reason to stop now. I strongly prefer a lot of other guys over him, so I'll go hard pass.
He won this tournament one time, I believe. Trying to pull up when he actually won.
You're talking about Zach Johnson? He won 2009.
Yeah. No, I know it wasn't in the models here, but yeah, he did win in 2009. So that's at least intriguing, but yeah, I like some other guys a little bit more, although the course fit isn't awful for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he won a little while ago. A little before Jimmy Walker for just looking winners, Russell Henley, Johnson Wagner, best pictures of a stash on DraftKings has one here as well. So, all right, well, let's jump up into this top tier, which is going to be, the 9K up through Jordan, which is 11.5. So it's going to be Gary Woodland through Spieth. Colin, you want to take first at this tier?
Yeah, sure thing. I guess, I don't know what normal order we go through, but I know Jimmy Walker has back-to-back wins here, but and I know I was semi-bullish on him last week, but I think he's a fade here for sure. I think his price is a little bit inflated by back-to-back wins, and just the fact that, his long-term stuff continues to mystify me. I think there are better options for like sneaky good course history if you want to go that route, and I don't think he's worth the money here. Other than that, I think the prices are all pretty fair across the board, to be honest, including Jordan Spieth being the favorite. I thought his showing last week was decent. I have him as a top-rated overall, a little bit ahead of Matsuyama. Pete, I'm sure you could talk me into Matsuyama being better than Spieth right now, but I think it's pretty much like I could talk myself into any one of these. I think the bottom end of this range, like it's not great course fit, but they're all good overall. I just don't see a lot of separation. And I think like if I were playing GPPs, this would be a pure ownership decision because I don't see a lot of differentiation, and you can mix it up way more at the lower ranks.
Between Spieth and Matsuyama?
Yeah, I think like Spieth is a little bit better, but like at least projected a little bit higher. But
I mean, they were both top 3 last week. I mean, we were high on them last week, and they got top 3. So, I mean, Matsuyama's still been just rolling. So, Pete, I mean, do you have a strong opinion on these two guys?
Yeah, I mean, give me all the Matsuyama. I mean, I'm gonna continue to take.
I figured it might be that case.
But do you think he's going to be higher owned than Spieth?
I
mean, he's 500 less. So, I mean, that it's not like they're like similarly priced, you know.
This is a major. I would think Spieth would be higher owned, but maybe because of who's playing DFS golf right now, Matsuyama will be a little higher owned. I mean, it's just ridiculous what he's doing right now. I mean, the guy is just absolutely on fire right now. He's just making so many freaking birdies that it's just I don't see how you don't take him right now. I think he's the guy you want exposure to, and yeah, I mean, he's playing the best golf in the world, so that's who I would take at the top end of the range. I agree with Colin that everyone's pretty priced appropriately. Like, I would really like to play Snedeker if he is cheaper, but 9,700, he's kind of priced appropriately given his course history. And he's a guy that I think sets up pretty well here. I guess the one guy I like the most probably in this range is maybe Paul Casey. Love the way he finished last year. I really think he found his game, and he was healthy. So he's a guy I'm bullish on overall this year, but it's a little disappointing that he's priced so high. So that's where I'm really struggling, is that everyone's kind of priced appropriately. But yeah, gun to my head, I have to pick one of these golfers at the top end of the range. It's definitely going to be Matsuyama for me.
Yeah, I mean, Matsuyama, his last 6 tournaments, second place, first place, second place, first place, fifth place. I mean, like, what are you supposed to do with fading that guy? It is ridiculous.
I know Colin wants to talk about the quality of the fields in a couple of those wins, but yeah, regardless, I don't care who you're playing against. If you're showing up to tournaments and winning or getting second, you're playing really good golf. And the hip issues clearly behind him. And yeah, I mean, there's arguably not a better ball striker on tour. So
that's fair. That's fair.
This game's really coming together well, and yeah, I mean, even the other guys talked about it. Like Justin Thomas was talking about, he's like, yeah, if I'm playing with the Hideki going into the last day, that's definitely a good thing. Like, these guys all know Hideki's at the top of his game right now, so that's the guy for me this week at the top end of the range. But I guess the only other guy that I'm interested in that I'll probably have more in GBPs than other guys is Paul Casey.
It's Casey, yeah.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I guess like if I'm really scraping for like a differentiation, I think the sneaky data point is maybe fade Justin Rose a little bit more, only because he has the smallest sample size of anybody else in this group, and like all else being equal, that essentially represents more risk with no essentially upside or downside, or maybe there is a little bit more upside to lower sample size, but everything that I've run so far in terms of winning lineup suggests that you want a little bit more known quantities in everything you do. So I don't know. Justin Rose gives a sneakier risk than you might otherwise think. He
also has the injury stuff, but for that reason, he might be the best GPP play out of the whole lot. He might be the lowest out of these guys. Also, in terms of caliber of golfer, I mean, he's probably if you just take their whole golf resume, Justin Rose is probably the 3rd best player in the field, and he's priced as whatever the 6th or 7th best player.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's an argument to be made for him. That's why I kind of think it's priced really well. I mean, he definitely has the most risk, but in terms of just like the overall golfer, like even if you're looking at long-term adjusted round, he's definitely one of the guys that stands out. But I don't know. It's a really interesting week at the top end of the range because there's just not that much differentiating these guys, and I'm really not sure where ownership's going to land. I think the big edge in this week is going to be in that mid tier and some of these low guys. And I feel pretty good about some of those plays. I'm higher on Russell Knox than you guys are, but I think we have a pretty good agreement that you can build a really good team starting with Webb Simpson and Charles Howell, and then one from there.
Yep, agree.
Harris English, another guy that Colin really likes.
And then,
It goes without saying.
And I think there's a bunch of other guys in that sort of, not maybe just a little bit less than Webb Simpson that are interesting. I mean, Daniel Summerhays, we didn't mention him. I think he's sort of intriguing as far as just how he's been playing over the last year compared to what his price is. He's even lower than Webb Simpson. Interesting guy. Colin, or Pete, rather, let me play devil's advocate for you. So Matsuyama has played this course 4 times and has awful course history.
Yeah, didn't he play it like 2 or 3 times as an amateur?
Is that what it is, Colin? Do you know?
Yeah, I remember I was looking into this a little bit. I know he hasn't made the cut in 4 times or something like that.
Yeah, he's been terrible.
I think like 2 or 3 of them were when he was an amateur. That's one of the things.
So it's just misleading data here, you think?
Yeah.
I would be, that is a good, like, that. I'm sure that's something that would be lost in the nuances. Like, yeah, I believe that.
No, I mean, but this is interesting because I was going to bring this up with, I can't remember even who it was, but the question of like course history and a guy playing really well, like, do you have to look at the years and how old he is just to like discount?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, right?
If not how old he is, then you do, and I have harped on this before when we're introducing course history, is how good they were at the time.
Like Jimmy Walker is a great example. Like he's 37 now, has elite course history, but like his course history was when he was, younger in his 30s. So like, is he a different golfer now?
Yeah. So like the rule, one of the rules I had before is like keep your course history to a rolling 5-year window, so that essentially filters out most of that, and that's always relative to their ability at the time. So I actually I have Matsuyama getting dinged because like missing the cut 4 times is definitely not. There's no good spin on that, but I don't have it nearly as much of an albatross around his neck because it was relative to how well of a golfer he was at the time. And if he was amateur at the time, then he wasn't the Matsuyama that we know today. So like I would weight that accordingly. Absolutely.
Yeah, because he had the pedigree coming up, and you see a lot of some of these Japan guys coming over this year as well. He was the highest touted, Japanese golfer. He probably came over here when he was like 17 or 18 years old. And I'm just not going to, I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm pretty confident that a couple of those were when he was an amateur.
Definitely fair. Yeah. And I mean, an interesting, point of course history, we sort of just look at the data, but, it just goes back so many years. And golf is just interesting in that, for other sports, like NFL, I mean, these guys, especially like a running back, like their career is just so short relative to, some of these golfers that just play for 20 years. So it's just a different animal, but I think a worthy conversation to just, learn how to interpret the data for sure. Pete, got a question for you. Since it's the beginning of the year, I was actually at the UNC game the other day, UNC basketball game, and Seventh Woods, who I know who was the 8th grade YouTube phenom, was one of the best players in the nation. So I'm curious, early in the year, what young golfers are you looking at this year?
We didn't even touch on Bryson DeChambeau, I think 1,600, but yeah, I'm not on him. The young golfer that I still am high on is John Rahm. Love Griot still, but I mean, the guys who are young and established are crushing now. I mean, Justin Thomas is only 23, Matsuyama's 24, Spieth's young. I mean, yeah, we just got to stay with the established guys. But of the guys who aren't like well-known names in the golf industry, I think Rahm is the guy that I'm most bullish on.
Shang Tsung Pan, for those playing at home, is 25. I don't know if that makes your cut as far as like young guns, but in terms of unknown, I think my brand is rando Euro names and pulling from other tours. So peak and have is people that people have actually heard of before. That's never my bag. I'm just going to take the obscure names. So I'm riding this pan train until it derails.
Are we over Ollie? I mean, he performed well last.
I was never on Ollie. It was my cautionary tale. Like, no, don't try to drag me into this.
Yeah, that's funny. Bo, you can go buy irons that are all the same length from Cobra now if you want. I'm not gonna even touch DeChambeau until he switches his wedge lengths. That's number one for me.
Yeah, that just seems like basic physics. I agree.
Yeah, you can't hit a freaking wedge in the bunker that's as long as your 7-iron or 6-iron or whatever. It just doesn't make sense.
No, that's fair. Wesley Bryan, is he young enough to get any love here?
Nah, I know some people will be on him, but
yeah, he's kind of the same. Like, it's who is that? I mean, like, if it's not going to be him, it's going to be Cody Gribble. That everybody's like every new flash. Just because they're young and they're putting up good results, like it doesn't mean that they're not going to regress based on the fact they're really young. I've seen it too many times. I've gone on this high horse before. I'll just be waiting 3 months from now with the "I told you so" speech, and I'll leave it at that.
Have you guys ever heard of Grayson Murray?
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
good player.
Yeah.
Definitely some upside there. We'll see what happens.
Played well on web.com last year, so I mean, maybe gets up to PGA in 2017. We'll see.
Give me some sample size.
All about sample size, Colin. Just all about the data all the time.
Yeah.
Such a hater.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pick our players here. So let's do our normal thing where we'll go snake round. We'll get a guy, each get a guy at 9K and above, and then we'll pick a guy lower than that. So I think I went second last time. I don't know how you want to do this. Pete, you want to go first this time?
Sure. Give me Matsuyama.
Okay. Colin, you want second or third?
I'll take second.
Don't be a fish. Take Spieth.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, Spieth. Yeah, thank you. You read my mind.
Yeah, I mean that's the play regardless, anyways.
Yeah,
I should have taken Spieth, honestly.
None of us have ever taken Spieth because we're always so bearish on him. So it's like, but you're right. It's like, don't be a fish. I agree.
Gosh. All right. So this is the tough part. So, I mean, Jimmy Walker's obviously the course play, but yeah, Pete's sort of talking me into Casey here, so I'll go Paul Casey.
All right, and then what price range should I have to go in for the next one?
Just
9.
Just
Oh, actually, no, Brian, you get to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. So just below 9K. I'll go Russell Knox.
Oh, you fuck.
Oh, I didn't take it. All right, good. No.
How are you doing that? How do you take Knox right here? I was just thinking how it's a lock that I'm going to get Knox right here.
No, not at the tail end of that. All right, no.
What are you talking about? You have Burger?
I got mine to go. Like, yeah, Burger's mine. I'm taking Burger. I had him locked in. Like, I'm dialed in.
Oh, my gosh.
Burger's mine. I'm so happy.
Doing too many pods together.
How do you take Knox right there?
Because I was like, who does Pete want? Russell Knox.
Yeah, I definitely wanted Knox. All right, I'll take Piercy. Sure.
All right. I love it. All right, any last thoughts, fellas?
No, this is fun. Got a cuss word in there too.
We're good to go.
27 just dropping all sort of bombs here.
2017 scoreboard is live. We're gonna have a true winner with our new rules, like by the end of the year.
No, and we're gonna keep up with this because I appreciate how Matt keeps up with all of the Coors Light props in the NFL prop.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have to keep up with this.
Should we give points should someone you should maybe get more points for the win, but then whoever finishes the highest out of the 6 golfers, someone gets a point for that. Maybe you get 2 points for the win, 1 point for the
I love this idea. All right, so,
we'll figure out the scoring system for sure.
Yeah, let's chat about scoring system and we'll introduce the next pod.
All right.
We'll build this out. This is epic. I mean, this is what people are asking for,
Yeah, I think so. And then as much as we can work in humiliation bets, like with special clauses during the week.
Humiliation bets are great.
This is going to end with someone shotgunning a beer on camera, like sometime around May, I think. And I'm okay with that.
Oh, yeah. Maybe to introduce some alcohol to the show here down the road. That'd be fun.
Little bit, yeah. Like, I don't know if
alcohol's always on this show.
No, I know you always you have a beer. I normally do, but I have some interesting prop physical bets with Bales and Levitan for this Orlando trip.
We should really open this up for sponsorship.
Physical bets.
Bullet Bourbon, I love you guys. If you just want to toss a bottle every once in a while our way, like I will drink that on air. I am not.
I'm drinking bourbon on air right now. I mean,
okay, we're really just throwing away free money. So, all right, we'll out soon.
What does a physical bet mean, Pete? I don't even know what that means.
Well,
like working out.
So Levitan and Bales are running the mile versus each other.
Oh my gosh!
Nice.
Yeah, they're doing. I can't do that because the Achilles injury still, unfortunately. But they're also doing a box jump, some sort of drill with that. I can't participate in that neither, obviously. But then we did some tests, and we're doing it's everything's altered, but a bench press competition and a pull up competition as well.
So we're gonna have a full on combine in a month or so. Oh, I'm getting
FantasyLabs,
and we have all the games. There's bowling. There's real life golf. The one bad news is I guess the golf simulator might be busted in this house, which is the disaster. But
that's a beat. Oh,
there's props all over the place, so we'll have a good time.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we got a Wave of FantasyLabs trip coming up in a couple months, so I'm sure there will be many tweets and things sent out. We'll talk about it more, but good times coming. We'll end it there. Colin, Pete, thanks, guys. We will wish you guys good luck in the Sony Open and in the BMW Euro event, and we will be back next week for sure. But good luck in contests this week. Hope to see you guys at the top of the leaderboards, and we'll talk to you guys soon.